too late again. Every day it's the same thing. Stink and noise day after day. Why can't those idiots move?
We've all had neighbors like that. They're loud and inconsiderate. The outside of their place looks terrible. Imagine what the inside is like. A disaster waiting to happen. No one likes to be near neighbors who don't care. They can make your life miserable with their trash and noise and smells. But where you work is a neighborhood too. Notice the next time you head to work. Schools, a park, houses, trees, a river. Maybe a nursing home or hospital, or a shopping center. The places where people live and work and play surround us wherever we are. Bhopal, India, 1984. More than 2,000 neighbors of a factory are killed when methyl isocyanate from a leaking tank drifts into nearby neighborhoods. Louisiana, 1995. More than 1,400 neighbors of a plant in Bogalusa are evacuated when a pink cloud of nitrogen tetroxide envelops the town. Schools and roads are closed and hospitals are jammed with hundreds of people who can't breathe. These are not isolated situations. In fact, in one recent year, there were more than 7,600 major chemical releases in the United States. Cases where serious releases of hazardous chemicals brought normal life to a standstill. Definitely not anyone's favorite neighbors. Creating better neighbors and safer air are the reasons for the risk management rule issued by the Environmental Protection Agency. Most people who go to work every day are familiar with OSHA regulations. EPA's risk management program rule is different. It was designed to prevent releases of certain listed chemicals into the atmosphere. This protects people and communities near the plants which use these chemicals. If your facility uses any of EPA's 100-plus listed substances above specific amounts, you may be asked to help assess operation hazards, predict possible releases, and figure out where a release would go in the community. Then your facility may need to beef up operations to prevent such accidents. A key part of the program is a risk management plan. The RMP lists accidents that happened in the last 5 years and shows things like how far a toxic cloud would go before it's no longer dangerous. The RMP also shows what the facility is doing to prevent accidental releases and to help the community respond to such an emergency. When the public reads this plan, and the law requires that the plan be made public, everyone will know what each facility is doing to protect or threaten the community. We will know what kind of neighbor you are. Congress, the EPA, and the chemical industry began laying the groundwork for these rules in the 1980s, not long after Bhopal. EPA began collecting data on the scope of the problem, and what it found was alarming. Between 1987 and 1994, the number of reported accidental releases of hazardous substances rose from 4,500 a year to over 7,600. In one year, 1993, in just 11 states, there were almost 4,000 such accidents. These killed 16 people and injured more than 2,000. People were forced to leave their communities a total of 500 separate times because of chemical emergencies. And that was only in 1 year and 11 states. The causes of such accidents vary, but more than half happened either because equipment malfunctioned or an operator made a mistake. That's why risk management is a shared responsibility. The risk management program is what they call a performance-oriented regulation. Unlike many early regulations, it doesn't tell companies exactly what to do. It simply sets a goal. No releases of hazardous substances. And facilities are expected to achieve it. There are 3 basic parts to EPA's risk management program: hazard assessment, prevention procedures, and community emergency response. First, your facility decides whether or not it is covered by the rule. Those that are included: every operation that uses any of the listed substances in quantities over certain amounts. These amounts range from 500 pounds, about one 55-gallon drum, of some very hazardous substances. up to about 20,000 pounds of other substances. Some of the substances are toxic, others are flammable. Some have a bad accident history. But all of them are listed because a release would be a disaster for the community and the environment. If a facility has any of the listed substances that exceed regulated amounts, it must evaluate each process for potential releases and effects. This evaluation is called hazard assessment. It is a team effort requiring contributions from people who know a lot about different systems and operations that use the listed chemicals. Some of you may be asked to work with this team, or you may be asked to gather information about the work you do, about how it operates, and the things that could go wrong. Doing a hazard assessment involves predicting what would happen in the community if various accidents occur during operation. What if a pipe or tank should burst and everything poured out? What if an overpressure caused an explosion? These are called worst-case releases. With the safety engineering and redundant systems in place at your facility, we all know that these worst-case situations are not very likely to happen. EPA knows that too. But these worst-case scenarios paint pictures to help communities plan ahead. Another part of hazard assessment is predicting effects off the facility grounds, using weather conditions like wind, humidity, and temperature, and the general lay of the land. Your company estimates how far each release will go before it's no longer dangerous. Then it counts the people, public places, and sensitive environments within the release area. This gives a picture of the worst possible thing that could happen to the neighborhood. Some facilities find that even the worst possible accident will not affect the community, that it will not leave the plant site. In these cases, the company shows this in its risk management plan and coordinates emergency response actions with local agencies. Many companies, however, find that a worst-case release would leave the facility grounds. Under the regulation, these facilities also have to predict accidents that are more likely to occur and the types of damage they would cause in the community. These are called alternative release scenarios. These are the kinds of accidents many of us have seen, like forgetting to close a valve, or connecting a fitting the wrong way, or even hitting a process line or a stack of drums with a lift truck. Often these kinds of mistakes don't cause a serious release because they are caught in time. But near misses are very important for planning how to manage risks. Speaking of accidents, everyone hates them and hopes they never happen, but sometimes they do. Your facility's 5-year accident history gives a good picture of the kinds of things that really happen. If an accident involving a listed substance injures anyone, whether on-site or off-site, the accident is listed and made public. Clearly, a bad record won't endear your facility to the community. Risk management is not a one-size-fits-all regulation. What each facility has to do depends on its industry group, the results of its hazard assessment, and its accident history. For many, this means gathering all kinds of information to set up a release prevention program. There is information about substances, technology, and equipment. There are MSDSs that tell everything about the chemicals used, how the equipment operates, and how it is designed. Charts and diagrams of how things work and what could go wrong. A hazard analysis is the next step. A team goes over each operation in great detail to look for problem areas that might cause a release. These could be personnel problems, like mistakes people could make, or equipment-related, such as design or operating problems. Findings are noted and scheduled for correction. Almost everyone has seen operating procedures, sometimes called standard operating procedures, SOPs. They tell everything about how each operation works. Under the regulation, many processes need very detailed operating procedures that include diagrams, flow charts, and steps to take in every possible situation. How to start a process, stop it, restart it, and what to do in an emergency. These operating procedures are a lot like the SOPs required by the OSHA Process Safety Management Standard. In some cases, they could be identical. Because nothing ever stays the same, risk management requires procedures for maintaining all processes in tip-top condition. Systematic maintenance must be a part of the program, as is permitting for such operations as hot work. Contractors, their employees, and others who work on equipment must learn about all procedures and hazards. Everything is checked and rechecked before startup after changes, and before new equipment goes online. No process can be changed or modified until the safety of the changes is evaluated and operating procedures are updated. All these checks and rechecks and all the written procedures go a long way to prevent accidents. Risk management operates on the idea that the more you know, the better things will go. That's why the risk management program is designed to help you predict all possible problems and take steps to prevent them. But no matter how hard everyone tries, there could still be an accident or a near miss that could be serious. Whenever something like this happens, within 48 hours your company conducts a detailed investigation to find out what went wrong. Because people who work on the process know the most about it, you are likely to be involved, identifying the cause. Once the cause is found, risk management requires that it be corrected, and everyone who works with the process has to learn what caused the problem and the changes being made to correct it. As you can see so far, EPA's risk management is a program of planning and assessing and learning, of knowing everything there is to know about processes that use hazardous substances. This is where the operating procedures and your individual training come in. Knowing company operating procedures and being well trained help you to know what to do and what not to do in most situations. Your training covers the operations you work on, the protective equipment you need, and other procedures like lockout, tagout, and confined space entry. Your supervisor can answer your questions, but you'll need to pay close attention to the procedures and the processes so you'll know the right questions to ask for your safety and the safety of others. Another good example of this is employee participation on teams and inspections. Your company and the EPA recognize that the people on the front line know how things work. You are often the first people to spot needed changes or potential problems. You may be asked to serve on a team to evaluate a process or to help design necessary changes. You have access to operating procedures and other information developed under the risk management program. Your use of this information shows your willingness to take your job and its hazards seriously. Working together to manage hazards and prepare for emergencies can mean many things. It may be as simple as taking part in regularly scheduled drills outlined in your company's emergency evacuation plan. Or at some facilities, it may mean participating in a full-blown emergency response program. These spell out specific procedures for dealing with emergencies. Your employer will tell you where the plan is kept and what your role will be. You may need to know where special equipment is stowed, or you may be given specific training in first aid or spill cleanup. These are part of your facility's overall program to protect you and the community in case an accident occurs. Since a major goal of the EPA regulation is community safety, what your facility does to prepare for emergencies must fit into emergency planning for the community as a whole. Risk management requires that people at your facility work with community responders, such as fire departments and hazardous materials teams, and the local emergency planning committee, LEPC. Each LEPC maintains an overall emergency response plan for helping the community in a hazardous substance emergency. That's where the risk management plan comes in. All information developed under the risk management program at your facility is collected into a risk management plan. The plan describes everything your facility is doing to prevent releases of hazardous substances and contains the various release scenarios and the 5-year accident history. This information helps the LEPC and emergency responders gather the people and equipment they need to prepare for chemical emergencies. But because the information is also available to the general public, it informs everyone about your facility's operations. When Congress ordered EPA and OSHA to write rules to manage risks, it was believed this public disclosure would encourage bad actors to clean up their operations. Even now, many believe that the threat of bad publicity and public knowledge will push all facilities towards safer operations. That's one reason why EPA gives companies time to come into full compliance. In that time, the agency hopes operations will be evaluated and brought into top condition. New equipment will be added to prevent or control releases. Employees will learn how to control all dangers in operations that involve hazardous substances. In many cases, facilities will find less hazardous ways to conduct their operations, perhaps by substituting less dangerous chemicals. True risk management is a lot of work for companies and employees. It sets a big goal, reducing those 7,600 plus accidental releases, and requires everyone's daily commitment. This means you need to learn everything you can about substances and processes, read and understand operating procedures, watch every fitting, pipe, tank, and every procedure to see that it's followed, and think about ways that it could be done better or more safely. Pay attention to drills and exercises. Do your best to foresee possible accidents. You are on the front line when it comes to risk management. The work you do and the input you provide protects you, your coworkers, your company, and your community.